example, Bradley was smoking a cigar in the middle of this conference center, and he's scooting around. He's just a silly goose. He's just a fun uncle, right? And so he's smoking a cigar, and I was like, man, that looks really good. I do the things that I say I'm going to do. I have ambition. If I don't know an answer, I figure it out. And so my hustle is unique to me. I definitely made a point to make sure that my hustle was based off of my skill sets rather than saying that I'm just out there hustling, guys, blah, blah, blah. Like I never said that. Nobody needs to know how hard I'm working. What you need to know is how much impact I'm making to the people that matter.
Hey, we motivating the nation, gonna set the foundation, spreading positive knowledge, the crucial conversation. All rise for the Will Rodriguez Show. Let's go.
Hey guys, welcome back to Crucial Conversations with Will Rodriguez. Today we have a very special guest. Before we jump into what we're going to talk about, be sure to like, subscribe, share, and all that. Ashley, it's exciting times we have you here on the show. Tell our audience a little more about you, who you are, and what you do.
My name's Ashley Owens. I'm a networking concierge. I'm also the president of PimCon. I teach at Temple University personal branding, and I am a paid speaker. So I basically work until I stroke out. That's as far as I get with my life here. I'm an entrepreneur since 2017, and I've had the privilege of being able to work with individuals and sales teams and training people specifically on the tactical and tangible areas of how to network. And then also I have the privilege of working with an organization that hired me to do what I do full time, which is attend events on behalf of my clients. And they made me president of their conference. So I am now scooting around, talking to sponsors, talking to people. We just hired Michael Phelps and David Spade to come and present at PimCon. So we're very excited about that. And I am just traveling all over the place. So I'm actually going. Where am I going this weekend? I'm going to Charlotte. I'm training a team on presenting skills. So they're a sales team. Yeah. So I'll be there on Monday.
That's exciting. That's
Thanks,
exciting.
man.
That's a mouthful. Wow. So I did want to talk about networking a little bit because I think it's important. Is there a right way to network or wrong way to network? What are some things that you see out there that people do right and wrong?
I think most people, when they think about networking, they think about it being very transactional, and half the time or 95% of the time it becomes where people feel like they have to be something that they're not. Networking gets a bad rap because they feel like it's part of the sales process. It's a nice opportunity. But the goal is with the networking component is that you are building out a group of champions to become your army. So ideally, when you build a network, and the right way to do it is you want to build the know, like, and trust factor. So people need to know you, they need to like you, and they need to trust you. And so in order to network properly, it's being able to give, rather than just saying, well, you do what I do and I do what you do. Maybe we should just share clients. It's like the first thing you think of when people say that is like you're full of it. So there is a wrong way to network. It's by being very transactional, and the right way is slow is smooth and smooth is fast.
So whenever you're in business and you depend on the next deal, but you're taking that approach of giving value, giving, and not asking, I mean, I could see that some people may be wrestling with that, right? It's like, how do I give, and then I still haven't closed the deal, or I still need that introduction. What do you recommend people do if they're in that situation?
So you're building networking equity. There was a point in time in the very beginning when I started the company that I had nothing. For about 3 months, I was only providing referrals to individuals. So it was building up a reputation of being able to be the person that people knew. I would provide resources. I would connect people without, there's no referral fee. I don't know if they would do business together, but they would connect in a way that was intentional. And so when I did have to live paycheck to paycheck. And so at one point I thought I was going to be homeless, and I made it work. So I'm no stranger to being able to understand the value of and the hunger that you have when you're trying to close a deal. But no one is going to buy from you if you look desperate. No one is going to buy from you unless you know what you're talking about. And that takes knowledge, education, thirst for knowledge, and being able to really dig into whatever problem that you're trying to fix. So in business, when people feel like they don't need to network, it's because they just feel like they need to take from that person. No one gives a damn about what you do. They don't care. They care about how you made them feel. And networking and your communication style and your own emotional intelligence is the number one thing to really focus on first. Figure out what skill sets you can triple down on and create a business where you are fixing the problem that you're really good at fixing, and then deep dive into other areas where you can then project out your expertise to people who have a problem that you can fix.
That's so good. So good. And what if somebody's a introvert and they're scared of talking to people because we've all been to those conferences, those networking events. Somebody's out there in the corner looking at their phone again to make a call. But they know that they need to start networking. So how do you coach them to, get out of their way, right? To, be a little more out there to connect with people? Is there a way to help somebody out if they're in that space?
It's a great question. I only work with introverts. Coincidentally, that wasn't
Are
by
you
design.
serious?
Introverts are usually the ones hiring me to coach them because they want to be more extroverted. But I can be very, very clear when I say this and very, very frank. Introverts are better networkers, and that's because they are intentional. They don't go to every event. They don't sit down and really fluff somebody's ego for no reason. They're very, very big on being intentional about who they talk to and where they spend their time, which means that when they do meet with somebody or they do have the privilege of talking to somebody that is in a relevant field, the one-on-one is more intense. It's very much more, I'm putting thought into what I'm saying to you. I'm really trying to fix your problem. And they're just better networkers. They know how to maintain and build relationships longer because they don't have the time to be fluffing and BSing with other people because they're not very confident in that, or it doesn't feel good. And
Really?
so when you talk about introversion, you talk about people who have different energy levels, right? Extroverts go into a big room with a bunch of people and they gain energy. Introverts lose energy. So that's the only difference between the two. That's the only difference. It doesn't mean that you're shy, doesn't mean that you're not confident. It just means your energy is depleted in other areas. So when you think about introversion, and the best advice I can give is triple down on the things that you like maybe boost up your LinkedIn activity, boost up everything that you need to boost up in order online to then when you do have the meeting, it's already built up and the relationship is starting to be a little bit more conducive. I've met introverts who are the best networkers. They go into an environment, into a large room. They have 3 goals they want to hit, and then they leave. And then they follow up because that's how you do it. And so introversion really is just the displacement of energy.
That's so good. And for me, a lot of people don't know this because, people that do know me now, they're like, man, you're everywhere. Like I could be in a restaurant or the light or anywhere and I'll make a connection right away. And people think I've always been this extrovert. For a long time, I consider myself an introvert until I started hanging out with an extrovert. And I remember first I was like, okay, this guy's just trying to get girls. We were both young and I'm like, this guy's talking to the girls, right? I'm like, okay, I see it. But then I'm like, wait, he's talking to the old guy too. And that old lady. I'm like, okay, this guy's really an extrovert, right? He talks to everybody. Doesn't matter who you are. And I thought, man, I need to start just putting myself out there just a little bit because I want to have conversations. And I started doing that. And now I feel like I became this extrovert that like you said, I gain energy when I'm in the room with a lot of people. And I love making connections. I love hanging out with people and just learning about them, their story, what they do. And like you said, sometimes it's not, I'm not going to gain nothing from it, but just making that connection. I'm making business, may not get business, but how do I provide value? Right.
Right. And the goal is to provide value, but you definitely do gain something from it. You gain perspective, you gain knowledge, you gain inspiration, you gain enough from the conversation if you position it correctly to be able to understand what problem somebody is having in their business. I had the privilege of being backstage at an event about a week ago. It was a well-known event, bunch of really popular people in the back, and the event producer who was running it is a friend of mine, and he has had a chance to see me in action, like me turn it on when I need to. It's not my event. I'm just there to help and basically be the stage mom if anybody needs water or drinks. And, I kind of took myself back and said, this is an opportunity for me to be able to learn, but also to help, these guys out. And so I had the privilege of being able to talk to some of the speakers. Either they came up or I smiled at them and we started the conversations, and then I turned it on. And by turning it on, as I asked a millionaire, I said, what is your goal? And she goes, I'm not really sure. I'm going to have everything I want. I said, what is your actual goal? What do you want? And I kept pressing her, and she's just like, and now we're best friends, and I have her phone number in my phone. There's the when you start asking very and the way that you position your questions is based on tonality. It's also based on what's it called? Body language.
Body
So, for example, if I were to go to you and say, "Hey, what's your 5-year goal, man?" And that conversation's like, "Well, who are you to ask me what my goals are, my finance?"
Mhm.
Because all of a sudden you go into like who is this bitch? Who's this? And then, but if I go like, "Hey, what's your 5-year goal? What do you think? What do you think you want to do?" And you say it with conviction, and you say it with kindness, and you say it with generosity, and people open up, because half the time, if I'm talking to a woman in the space, I say, "Girl, how are you doing?" "Oh, I'm doing great."
You really don't.
"Oh, today sucks." I was like, "Okay, what happened?" I was like, what are the men doing?" She's like, "I don't know." But the what I'm trying to say is that there is a commonality when you can relate to somebody else on a human level that allows people to feel like they can get to know you. And people often think that introversion is just a way of people being shy. It's not.
Mhm.
It's if you're naturally curious, people will gravitate towards that.
Mhm. Okay, that's so good. Do you recommend a book or maybe like a YouTube channel or something where they could like, get little tips
Sure.
about the
I've got a book out there. I've got a workshop. I've got
Okay.
a course on Teachable. It's called How to Not Suck at Networking, and it comes with a 72-page ebook that has a breakdown of templates and how to have an effective first meeting, and DMBCs, deep meaningful business conversation questions, and all that jazz. So there's definitely a lot of, and I have a ton of videos on my YouTube channel, but I really try to make the tips practical and
Mhm.
tactical, and not like, "Hey, you just need to, like, I don't know, change your mindset when you go into a room." It's like, no, 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 no. I don't need any of that BS. I mean, you all
Mhm.
are adults. You all know how to, do something you want to do. Once you get into the room, what activities or what action items can you start doing to start getting yourself more comfortable? And
Mm.
so that is where I really focus on, and being able to use technology to support that too.
Oh, I think what I'm getting from you is every time that you go to a room, to an event, to a conference, have a goal in mind, right? Of who you working at or
And sometimes going into a room and having no expectations usually turns out better than you anticipated. I mean, there's plenty of events that I've gone to where I'm like, I don't really want to turn it on today, where I'm seeking out people, but it ends up happening where I'm sitting there and I've got people coming up to me because they don't like, "Oh, what are you doing?" And then it's not a turning it on by being fake. It's like turning it on by being attentive, by being intentional about who I'm talking with.
Mhm.
I won't seek it out if I'm kind of working or I'm doing stuff. Yeah, you can. It's just talking to people. It's
Just
just
talking to
honestly,
people.
it's just talking to people and being curious about their lives. You may never see that person again, but the best conversations I've ever had in my life were from strangers I will never meet again.
Mm.
In those
So
moments that maybe sometimes you need it, or maybe sometimes they need it. I've had
good.
a handful of times, almost now 2 handfuls of times, where I've had instances where somebody's met me. I've had the privilege of meeting them. Let's be real, from a speaking perspective, and they came over and they would ask me a question, and I said, and I can always tell if they have, if anybody, I've got a superpower where I can see behind what they're saying. And that comes from patterns. That comes from ADHD. So I can I can understand patterns a lot faster, and now that I'm paying attention to it, when I started 7 years ago, I can see it faster and more. I can see it faster, but I can also decipher it a little bit easier, and
Mm.
usually can get to the point pretty quickly with them. And so the biggest part about that is the messages I receive months later or years later is if everything were to go to shit tomorrow, if
Mhm.
everything were to just implode in my world, it doesn't matter, because I've got emails, I've got text messages that are shocking of the impact I had no idea that I had, that somebody in my position where I have the privilege of talking to everybody, you just hope you just affect one.
Mm.
And I have a list of 5 people just the past couple of years where I have done something enough to save their life. Whether that's realistically or whether that's theoretically, it's something where they've made a very big point to tell me that there is something that I said or did that has changed the course of their life for the better. And
Mm.
that's success to me. It doesn't matter. The money doesn't matter. I did something. I impacted someone. And that was never the goal. Never the goal to have them say anything. It was just the goal for me to feel like the best version of myself. And the fact that I've had the privilege of being able to impact people in that way, I'm good.
That's
When
awesome.
I had somebody on an interview ask me, they're like, "What does success look like for you, or what would make you successful?" I said, "I got it." And I told her the story. I was like, "I got 5 people when I'm having a bad day, and like, it doesn't matter if everything implodes, I'm good."
Mm,
Yeah,
that's so good.
yeah.
I love that. I love that. Now, I was gonna ask you, are you the type of person that lives? Are you the type of person that like dreams big, has a big vision, or you're a person that just lives in the present?
I live in the present. I used to think about a 5-year goal or whatever, and it would change every couple months based off of if I because I would say no to things because it wasn't along my goal path, and I didn't realize that my goal path or the path to my goals were things that I didn't even know were existed. So if I became linear in where I wanted to go, and I didn't actually I wasn't it wasn't thought out enough for me to the idea of having a large goal has always been just fleeting to me because I would say no to things because it wasn't towards that one goal. But in 6 months that goal changed. Or this goal is even better than this goal. I wasn't thinking big enough, right? And I would say yes to things. And the yes to things allowed me to now change the course of my life and it has allowed me to say, I can now look back on like, a beautiful wall, right? And just see how everything was connected because I said yes to this, or I moved here, or I did that. And if I had if I had one goal, one big massive goal, it would have clouded my judgment on where to go because I was just solely focused on that. So my goals are very much like I have these mini goals and I've achieved them based off of saying yes to other things that I didn't realize would have gotten me to that goal. So I had to kind of rework my own brain there.
For a lot of you guys that are listening, please go back. What is it, like 3 minutes, 5 minutes, and replay that because that was a gem. Wow, that was deep. What is your opinion about the hustle culture? That's really popular right nowadays with social media and everything.
Sure. I think that the generic alpha male hustle culture is just force feeding down into people to say that you can do this at a quick pace. And it usually comes hand in hand with like working out and like telling you that you're not good enough. It's like, all right, we all know that you need to go to therapy. Stop yelling at people, right? So that's how I see hustle culture. Now I hustle. I do the things that I say I'm going to do. I have ambition. If I don't know an answer, I figure it out. And so my hustle is unique to me. I definitely made a point to make sure that my hustle was based off of my skill sets rather than saying that I'm just out there hustling, guys, blah, blah, blah. Like I never said that. That nobody needs to know how hard I'm working. What you need to know is how much impact I'm making to the people that matter. And those people that matter are the ones I have the privilege of having in my circles, and I have the privilege of teaching and coaching and meeting for the first time. And so the hustle culture gets a wrap around going out there, but like all the guys and all the women that are saying, "Oh, hustle, hustle, hustle," you're not following up. I know that for a fact. What you're doing is you're being transactional about the conversation you're talking to, giving false hope to whatever process you think you're going to do, and inflating your results. That's what hustle culture is. In order for you to be a good human, you have to have balance. And it took me a while to figure that out because the hustle was beating down my own brain. I'm like, so I just got diagnosed that I have ADHD. I just did about 8 months ago. I had no idea. And so me being able to now recognize that, oh, I'm not angry. I'm just overstimulated. I'm not exhausted. I'm burnt out because of X, Y, and Z. My cortisol levels down. Maybe I got to eat something so that way I don't feel like I'm going to sleep my weekend away. And so it was like the hustle culture is based off of working until you make the money. But like you're going to die if you don't figure out your own mindset, your own body. And so that journey I think is really important. And hustling is great. But yelling and telling people that they're stupid because they're not working as hard as you don't know their story. Get off. Don't tell me what to do. Right. And so there's a level of motivation that goes into it. But I feel like hustle culture is really for weak-minded people who feel like, let me go back to that statement because that's incorrect. A hustle culture in the stereotypical way is feeding off of weak-minded people who feel like that's the only way up when they really need to look within themselves to feel like they are worth it. Once they see their value through a lot of what's it called? You know what I'm talking about? Like self-realization, and recognizing that, your life is uniquely your own. If you want to hustle, go for it. But don't BS people into buying stuff because you need to make the next sale. And I think your hustle is definitely different. My hustle, I still do because I work 3 jobs and everything is, I love it. And so when people ask me, oh, you're hustling, I'm like, no, man, like I've gotten to the point now where I've got systems in place where I am still working hard, but I'm not burning myself out to the point where I can't perform in the way that I want to.
Got it. Got it. I'm sure that took you a while to get to that point.
It did. It definitely
Right.
did.
And I could just assume like that, you went through a lot while navigating that journey. And you talk about systems, having systems in place.
Yeah.
How important is having systems in place
So
for at
important.
least a person like yourself?
I call it, yeah, it's very important. It's definitely important to me because the things I can focus on now when systems are in place are a lot easier than, because I do a lot of admin work. I do a lot of admin work. And so when the systems are in place, it makes it easier for you to be able to do those things quickly and get back to your clients quicker. So the systems are important because half the time when you're hustling, when you're going from teaching a class and then working with a sponsor and then, preparing your presentation for your clients, there is a level of trash brain that happens, right? So what I'm trying to do is prepare for stupid Ashley, which will probably happen tomorrow. And then where smart Ashley was like, I got you, girl, and like set it up where I'm in the mood to be able to do it. So systems and processes are really good for you. Yeah, I definitely support it. And just like jerry-rig it. I mean, Zapier's great, Calendly's great, even just getting meetings on the calendar and being able to have automatic emails sent over saying like, thank you so much for your time. And then having that get zapped into your CRM. So when you do send out a newsletter, you know the person you spoke with and providing, but you're still providing value.
Really. So it seems like you're focused on the main thing, which is really building up people and giving that value, and you already have the systems in place and to help you, right, buy more of your time back, right? So
Right. And
that's
the
crucial.
confidence too. I think that, networking is such a personal activity. It's not a one size fits all kind of thing. Everyone has to be conscious of it, that the majority of people who feel like they don't know how to network, they don't know themselves well enough yet to be able to give them the grace to be able to learn how somebody else thinks. And being able to understand yourself and be empathetic is the key to being a really good networker. If you use the word connector, I swear I will throw you off a roof because everyone calls themselves a connector. You'll never hear me say I am the queen of networking. You'll never hear me say I'm an expert at networking. There's too much in the human behavior face. Our friend Brian, who runs Subtle Skills, I'm fascinated by what he does. He learns faces. And so I'm deep diving into that because that fascinates me. So I get to know people. There's so much to learn about people that I can't, there's no way I could call myself an expert on it. However, I do a really good job meeting people where they're at and being able to customize programming around them to better network.
Yeah, it seems like you're the type of person that knows how to ask good questions. It reminds me of the book by John Maxwell, Great Leaders Ask Good Questions. Phenomenal book. So if you haven't read it, check it out. Let's talk about your role as a president. Yeah. Let's talk a little bit more about that.
It makes me want to throw up. They gave me too much power, and now I'm running with it. So the way that this opportunity came about is I was working for an organization, a SaaS company that was building out widgets and programs to help facilitate better networking online. And I had moved from Philadelphia to Texas, and so I got a call from my very first client ever. His name is Marty McDonald, and I'll tell the story until the day that I die. And Marty was my very first client ever. And he goes, hey, are you still going to events on behalf of your clients for networking? I said, yeah, absolutely. And at the time I had moved, so I was kind of on a hiatus for the last 6 months. And he goes, I have a guy for you. And so I got introduced to Chris Dreyer, and Chris runs an organization called Rankings. And Rankings does SEO, search engine optimization, and websites for personal injury attorneys. And Chris is an introvert, and he does not like going to conferences. And if he does, he goes for a little bit, and then he hides out in his room because, I get it, man, too people-y. I totally understand. So he asked me to come into one event, and then he asked me to come to 3, and then he said, hey, what about 5? I was like, okay. And he goes, what about 30? And I said, I'm going to throw up. Absolutely. So he hired me as on a contract basis, and then after 4 months, what they did was that there was at the third event I went to Mexico with the director of operations, and that director was speaking she was doing a presentation, a panel discussion. Now the team didn't know that I spoke at keynoted and did things like that, because I took a step back. There's no reason for me to put that in front of them, because I don't know SEO, I know people. And so I didn't step into that role. I had no interest in doing that. And she got sick the night before, and so I held back. I said, we're gonna force feed you soup. We're gonna get some crackers in. We're gonna make it work. And then the next day she goes, hey, I need you to cover. I was like, give me 10 minutes and some bullet points will make it work. So I got up there and I presented on a panel discussion about marketing, and I was able to, make it very clear, I'm here stepping in for Sonia. She's doing that. So I just made it as I gave as much as I could. My employer, Chris, saw it on our socials because I shared it, and he goes, as we're going back to the airport, he sends me a Slack message. He goes, hey, what happened to Sonia? And I was like, oh my God, I just overstepped. Thinking that I'm going to get fired because I didn't check in with him, and she said it was fine, the whole thing. And he goes, no, this is great. He's like, this is totally, he's like, great job. He goes, also, no pressure. Do you want to come on full time, do exactly what you do for us? You can take in other clients just outside of, this world. And you can still teach. We love your entrepreneurial spirit. And I was like, my God. So I got full benefits, a salary, more money than I've ever seen in my life. And I jumped on the bandwagon, and I did 23 events. After the 18th, they said, or after the 4th or 5th, sometime in April, they asked me if I would like to be the director of attorney relations. So I was basically in a department all my own. And they gave me a director title, which is the director's salary. And then after I threw up a little bit there, I ended up going and saying, and then they ended up saying, hey, we're going to run our own conference. And I said, great. Yay, got it. And so I turned on I have a background in sales, but I don't like it at all. And I have sold a lot of sponsorships from the relationships that I built with the vendors at these conferences over the past year. So my business already is now creating an ROI because I built relationships with these people without even knowing we were going to put on a conference. So by the time I call with them, I'm like, hey, Dina, tell me what you want. She goes, oh, I want goat yoga. If I can make it work, we'll make it work. It's going really well as far as, gathering the sponsors for it. But we've partnered with a great event producer, their production company. So we're changing the way that vendors are going to conferences, especially in this environment, because it's a very different than the Cardones and the Gary V's of the world and the Ryan Stevens of the world. It's a very different vibe, and we're changing the whole thing.
Can you tell me more about that? Really interesting. Yeah.
So the Personal Injury Mastermind Conference is bringing personal injury attorneys to a luxurious Phoenician hotel in Scottsdale, Arizona, September 15th to 17th. Our keynote is Dan Morgan of Morgan & Morgan. You'll see him everywhere, all over the billboards, the whole nine. He is the nicest human I've ever met. Getting him to agree to come in and speak at PIMCon was a lot easier than his little cronies thought it would be, because I went up to him and I said, hey, man, I think you're great. I just saw you speak at this conference. I would love to know, how do I get you on my stage? And he goes, I don't know. I was like, who's your secretary? Who do I got to go through? He goes, no, just email me. I was like, I got you covered, Dan. I was like,
It
what
was
do you
that easy.
easy?
Wow.
Because I talked to him like a human because they're all
You made it
friendly.
look easy. Yeah, absolutely.
And,
Wow.
but the thing is, I'm not from this world. So anybody that is like high up in authority, I don't care. You're a guy. You're a man. You're a
Hmm.
man that needs it, And so I asked him. I said, what would you want as a keynote? Like, what
Yeah.
would you want? He goes, oh, I want this, this, and that. I was like, that's it. I got you covered. And then we amplified what we provided him, which was
Yes.
all the content, walkout videos, just everything that he would need, and then we duplicated it with the speakers. So we already set the standard of being able to provide the speakers what they need, which are our most influential people. And then so we ended up putting it for all the speakers. We have Michael Phelps as the second day keynote, who is the greatest of all time. So the conference theme is called Going from Good to the Greatest of All Time. So we got the GOAT, and then we have David Spade as our comedian. So it ended up working out really well. We're still in the process of getting more and more tickets. We've got almost sold out of booths, and then I've got a bunch of customized packages I'm making for people. So it's going really well. But the benefit of me doing this and the way, and because it's working, is by design. So Chris sent me out for all of these conferences. I had the privilege of being able to network with other vendors like ourselves who work with personal injury attorneys. And so when we're all hanging out together I know what problems that they have. I know that they feel like second-class citizens at conferences. I know that they spend $13,000 on putting their logo on a napkin and barely getting anything. I know they're tired of the fees if they leave an hour early before the conference center allows them to. I know what problems that they face. And I am now in the position to take all of that away. And so when we put these processes together, when I put these sponsorships together, nobody meets a sponsor one-on-one. Nobody does that. I do. I mean, with every single sponsor, tell me what you want. I was like, I got all these options. Let me customize something. If I can do it, we'll do it. I'm your point of contact. You're not going to get 75,000 emails. You're not going to have anybody up your butt about paying. It's like, I will keep you updated if things are getting low. What do you want? Covered. So that allows it to be, they feel more, and I feel more, I don't want jabronis for our first conference. I don't want people in there that I know are going to be, soliciting our PI attorneys. I'm saying we're going to keep it easy. Yeah. I'd rather you come in, do your thing, ask for forgiveness and permission, but just don't be a jerk. And I can tell because of my networking opportunities, because of the people that I've met, I've built relationships. They also know when I say I'm going to do something, I do it. Oof. And I go above and beyond. So it all worked out based off of my own core values, what I put together in my business. If someone told me you're going to run this conference, I would have been like, okay. But I never would have put myself in that. I never would have accepted it unless unless the process was the way that it was. And I'm very confident that we're going to crush this event. It'll be fun.
I'm better about it. Yeah. I love the fact that you just build that muscle of like knowing how to network. Yeah. And obviously I'm teaching people, you're educating people, and how you are relatable. You're asking questions, you're going deep, you do really well in the stage or one-on-one, but also how you're shameless. Like, you don't care if you're talking to a president, a governor, a CEO, whoever. Nope. You're just like, hey, you're just a man. You're just a person.
When I tell you the places I've been able to go because of that attitude, it is extraordinary. So I used to work for a couple of celebrities in New York City. I was a personal assistant. So I should not have been a PA. No, I was not good at it. But I definitely learned how to communicate with higher level people because I was their go-to, right? I was the one fixing things. So I had to build relationships with people, the doorman in case I screwed up on a delivery, the driver in case I messed up an agenda. So it really was to save my butt. So that way they would go above and beyond for me and I would do it genuinely and I would go above and beyond for them. So that's where it started when I was in my 20s. And then I learned that, that's networking. And then figured that out and how to be able to monetize it. But yeah, man, I'm shameless. Everybody poops. Yeah. And the most people who have the most power, they're just men. At the end of the day, if people, I have students that are nervous about, connecting with another human. And I said, they're just people. They're just people. They're just people. And they all have emotions. They've all cried. They all put on pants the same way, hopefully. And The benefit is it's the people that make you feel the people that you think are intimidating, you're intimidated. They're not intimidating. It's
Yeah,
you. So you got to figure out where that comes from.
that's so good. And I experienced the same thing. I went to the U.S. Capitol, had dinner with a senator, met Robert Kiyosaki. I mean, met a lot of celebrities or
Sure.
influencers. But at the end of the day, when I was having a conversation with them, they were just human, simple
Yeah.
people, right? There's really nothing special, right? Other than they are in certain positions or they acquire this real estate, whatever the case. But
Yeah.
the simple people, down to earth. And it's just interesting how it seems like a lot of people are kept from many things because they're scared. They're
Yeah.
scared to make that connection. They're scared to
Yeah.
ask, right? So tell us more about that. Like, why would somebody not take that step and either making that connection or taking that next step, right? Because it could be a breakthrough for them.
Sure. I think most people have a stopgap because they're of a fear of rejection. But I used to be an actor a long time ago, so I was bred on rejection. I was bred on getting punched in the face, like proverbially, and like I know what rejection feels like. Family wise, I'm divorced, like personality wise. Like I have gone through the ringer of not being enough for somebody until I woke up and said, "You're not enough." Or I'm enough, or I'm too much, or whatever. Once I learned that about myself, it was game over. It did not matter. And the only person I think I would ever, and I mean ever, really balk at and be a little nervous around would be Robin Williams. That would be the only person I would ever be that way. I have worked, even honestly, the president were to walk in, I would have been, doesn't matter. Any president, doesn't matter. Nobody intimidates me anymore because everyone has faults. Everybody has secrets. Everybody's got whatever. And most people that are the loudest are the ones that are usually scamming people out of money. So I'm just tired. And, women are, I get more nervous around other women. And by nervous, I mean, nerves are just excitement. That's all it is.
Okay.
And so, like Cint Marshall. Cint Marshall is the CEO of the Mavericks, and I saw her speak, and she is just, being around her aura is amazing. I was able to working on getting a meeting with her now, and I became friends with her assistant. And so getting that meeting is going to be slow because I want to build a relationship with the assistant because she's also a woman. She's also an assistant. This is her first. I have a background in being an assistant. I'm like, girl, what do you need? I can help you out. And it's not because I want to get a meeting on Cint's calendar. It's because I want to be around other powerful women. And by default, I'll be able to get on her calendar. But I did talk to Cint, and she goes, we'll get a meeting. And that was because I asked her genuinely at one of the events I was at. I said, I saw you present, because I went up right up to her. I was like, ma'am, I saw you present. You were the best speaker I've ever seen. I said, woman to woman, and I got her. Meaning, I genuinely just want to be around her. I've got nothing to offer her. I just want to be around her. And I said, woman to woman, I just came into this leadership position, and I would love to learn how you did that. How you did that. And she goes, we'll have lunch. Put it on the calendar. Now, my own problem right now is that was a month ago because I am nervous to reach out. I gotta sit there and then I gotta buck up. But that is the only time that's ever happened to me where I just felt not nervous or unsure. I'm just so excited about the opportunity to be around a woman who has done it, and she's done it in such a way. My own self-consciousness is being like, I gotta ask some really good questions, and because I admire her.
Yeah.
I've seen her personally, I've seen her professionally, and it's just, you just want to sit there and be just around her aura. She's one of very little people that I've ever seen that. And I'm not afraid if she's going to reject me. I'm not afraid she's going to say, none of that. Just knowing that I have the potential of just is just enough for me to be like, oh, I gotta have a cocktail before I make my phone call, just to kind of get the nerves down because I just admire her so much.
Ah, so good.
Yeah.
So
we talked. You could talk to anybody. I was like, oh, Marshall.
Me, I would say is of all people, Patrick Bet-David, because I've watched his stuff for like 10 years. And I mean, I watched, I think, almost all his videos. His
Yeah.
podcast are a little long, so I don't watch them all, but I do watch a lot of his clips. And I just admire that guy so much that I feel like if I can ruin them, I had like you. I asked really good questions.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. I'll probably record the whole thing. I don't know. Be an exciting day for sure.
Yeah.
So there's one thing about like fear, but then one thing that you talked about is you humble yourself and you asked the question, right? And you
Yeah.
could tell it resonated with her, and that's why she's gonna give you the time, right, to connect.
Yeah.
But that was so powerful. It seems like people need to do more of that to get access or to just make better connections.
I think
Right,
when
like I
you
said.
go into it wanting something, that's when you've already lost. And so if you go in there wanting something from somebody of power, you've already made a point to like use them for some kind of leverage. And that's not what networking is. Like, for example, I had the privilege of meeting Brad Lee, and Brad is just a goofball. He comes across, and a lot of times when I get a chance to go backstage and like see a lot of these influencers and stuff, 95% I would never even want to offer a cocktail to or offer a coffee to. And like, I love my coffee. So that's a thing because of how they treat people, right? And then you've got the other 5% that you're just like, man, you're cool. And then if you go over and just pick for example, Bradley was smoking a cigar in the middle of this conference center and he's scooting around. He's just a silly goose. He's just a fun uncle, right? And so he's smoking a cigar and I was like, man, that looks really good. I had a chance. Have you ever been to Philadelphia? And he goes, no, I haven't been. I said, if you ever go, there's a great cigar bar called the Ashley Cigar. And I just started yipping with him. I was like, I got it. There's a place I know of. Would love to chat. And then I think that he wanted to get on. I think my employer was like, yeah, it'd be really great if we can have him on the podcast. And so I shot him. I ended up having to walk him to the bathroom because he didn't know where it was. I'm like, I'll take it. No problem. Wasn't even my job. I was like, I'll take you. I know where it is. And I know that the crowd is that way. So if you want to avoid it, I'll walk you down and make sure nobody, bothers you. And he was super nice and we just chatted. And then I found out what kind of cigar. I called my cigar guy because I still have one in Philadelphia. I was like, I don't know what this guy likes, but I feel like I want to send him something just as a thank you for doing it. So I sent him a $200 box of cigars. And I said, I would love to have your team set something up where you can come on my employer's podcast. It's for personal injury attorneys. And I think this is the reason why it'd be good for not your audience, but for your business, because attorneys can use your software, blah, 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 and all that jazz. And so I was like, in case, like, who's the best person to chat with just to connect? Because again, I always defaulted to their assistant because they're the ones that get stuff done. So that way it's off his plate. And so I sent him a box. I was like, would love to do this. Would love to, if it's okay. And then I had my team coordinate it. Now, I don't know if they scheduled it or I think he may have, I think he had to reschedule, but he couldn't have been nicer. He responded right back to my email and I let him know who I was. And I didn't even think to even add him to the request. But I said, in case, would love to have you on. If not, no big deal. Enjoy the box of cigars. I hope it worked out. And so now the next time I see him, because he's in these spaces, I'll be like, hey man, how'd you like the cigars? And we can just chit chat and it has nothing to do.
I love that.
The view gain is when I have the privilege of being able to talk about him to somebody who else is in the space, I can say he's a really good dude. He's a really nice guy. So, I don't agree with everything that he says, but at the same time, he was kind and he looked me in the eye when he spoke. And no, most men don't do that when they're about to go on stage. They don't look you in the eye. They don't take the time, especially around women. They that just work there. But he has no idea if I want to put him on my stage He has no idea that I have that power when I do it next year for the next marketing. He has no idea if I can make a recommendation to somebody else. He has no idea, and vice versa, right? So when you lead with empathy, when you lead with generosity, I went in there with zero expectations, and I was just chatting. If I can walk in the bathroom, man, I'll do that. No problem.
That's so good. Yeah, absolutely. That's so good. You were the servant. You were the friend. You were
the servant.
The detective. You were the detective, and also you were the Santa Claus. All within like a couple minutes. If you guys want to know how to network, or connect with people in power, there it is. With gifts, by being a friend, by offering value. Wow. Well, we're gonna land the plane here. How can people connect with you?
Sure. You can find me at ashley.assists.com. That website is actually getting changed in the next 2.5 months. It's now going to be networkingconcierge.com. Pay a lot of money for that website. But it is trademarked. So my title is trademarked. So it'll be networkingconcierge.com, but right now it's ashley.assists.com. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on Instagram, all at Ashley Assists. My email is ashley@ashley.assists.com. And you're welcome to email me. I live out of my inbox. So if you have a question, shoot me an email. I'll be happy to respond. I also respond all on LinkedIn too.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on. We
Thanks,
definitely have to have you on the show again, by the
Sure.
way, because we just touched on a few things and I want to dive on other topics. So with that being said, thank you so much for coming on. Remember, guys, keep fighting the good fight. Stay in prayer. Stay dangerous. Take care, guys. Bye.
Bye.
That Rodriguez show, yeah, that Rodriguez show, yeah.